If you ask a Jew for evidence of their God, they'll point to the trees and the birds and the sky and say, the evidence of Elohim is all around you. If you ask a Hindu for evidence of their gods, they'll do the same. The evidence of Brahma is all around you. If you ask a Christian, a Zoroastrian, a Muslim, they'll do the same. The evidence of Yahweh, Ahura Mazda, Allah is all around you. If you asked an Egyptian 5,000 years ago, they would have gestured at the trees, birds, and sky and claimed that the evidence of Ra is all around you. If you asked a Roman, an African, a Greek, a Native American, or anyone from any culture at any period of time, and you'd get the same answer except with their own specific god or gods. And there are dozens more arguments that every religion uses, believing that they somehow exclusively prove their specific religion as well as their specific denomination of that religion. The argument from complexity, the moral argument, personal experiences, and other hearsay anecdotes, Pascal's wager, the watchmaker argument, and various other arguments for creation or divinity. None of these arguments support one religion or another. They don't even support the concept of a religion. And that's exactly what I want to talk about today. This phenomenon that I've noticed when Christians attempt to prove to me, or to the world, or perhaps to themselves that their religion is true. In one way or another, they don't even attempt to defend their religion. Christians don't defend Christianity. I know a lot of Christians who are extremely passionate about their religion. They attend every church event they can make it to, or they even have a ministry of their own. They're more than happy to discuss the Bible or to share their doctrine with strangers that they meet on the street. And they'll even go out of their way to invite those strangers to their church, or to even schedule a Bible study in the future to save that person's soul. However, these same passionate Christians won't do the same for me. It's rather suspicious if the only people you're attempting to convert to Christianity are people who aren't familiar with the Bible, but yet you won't even speak to someone who you know is fully familiar with the Bible, as well as with your religion's fallacious apologetics. If your personal mission is to share the truth of Christianity with as many people as you can, but yet the best that you can do when you watch my videos is get uncomfortable and angry, rather than reach out to me and show me what I'm missing, then I can only assume that you realize that you can't refute my points or offer me any evidence in favor of Christianity. And in that case, you're not only another Christian without evidence, but you're also a Christian without a backbone. Just the other day I was in town. I was walking down the street to the dollar store, and some lady came running out of one of the shops, and she came up to me and she asked me if I went to church anywhere. I told her that I didn't, and then she asked me if I was a Christian. So I told her that I wasn't religious. And then she asked me if I knew the story of Jesus, and I told her, I'm a little bit familiar with it, just a little bit. So then she asked me if she could pray with me, and I let her. But afterwards, I asked her what her opinion was on the 6-day creation story in Genesis, and she didn't really give me an answer. It was pretty obvious that she only wanted to talk about this feel-good message of this New Age Christianity rather than the details of the Bible itself. But I told her that in the first chapter of Genesis, it says that Yahweh created all of these celestial bodies on the 4th day of creation, supposedly about 6,000 years ago. This included all of the stars and all of the planets. So I then started telling her about supernovas. When certain types of stars die, usually a very large one, it results in an extremely powerful and bright explosion of energy and gas. Some of them have been observed by humans with the naked eye, and with the Hubble telescope, we've discovered supernovas billions of light years away. I explained to the lady that if we see something in the sky that is 1,000,000 light years away, it means that it took that light 1,000,000 years to reach us. So if we're watching a star dying 10 billion light years away, it means that that star was dying 10 billion years ago. When you're looking at the sky, you're essentially looking back in time. I told her that stars have a lifespan of a few billion or at least a few million years depending on their size. Large ones burn up rather quickly in a few 100 million years, and smaller stars like our sun will last for a few billion years. So we shouldn't be seeing any stars die, much less stars that died billions of years ago if they were supposedly born 6,000 years ago. I then told her that stars are still being born. We can observe millions of stars currently forming in our galaxy alone. Stars should not still be forming if they were all created by Yahweh 6,000 years ago. So I asked the woman how she rationalized all of that, or perhaps if she interpreted the creation story in Genesis allegorically, or perhaps as a parable. She didn't give me her opinion at all. Instead, she started giving me names and numbers of her pastor and other ministers that I should talk to about it. Apparently, they had the answers. And that's something that I've encountered several times with Christians. Just a couple years ago, there was a Christian girl who wanted to meet with me to have some Bible studies. She wanted to save my soul and bring me back to Christianity. But I respected that, because not very many Christians are willing to meet up with me and talk. So I met with the girl a few times, and she would give me her pitch for Christianity, and then I would respond to it, and I would give her my objections with the Bible. I would list some of the contradictions in the gospel stories, and I would point out some of the historical and scientific errors with the Old and New Testament. I would mention some of the immorality in the Bible as well, but she rarely responded to any of my points. Instead, she would call her dad or her pastor mid-conversation, and I had to talk to them. And more than once, her dad and her pastor would give me names and numbers of other ministers that I should call and talk to, because apparently they have the answers. But that only left me wondering who those ministers would refer me to. The Pope? Trying to get answers from Christians is often like trying to cancel your credit card subscription. Susan says that Josh has the answers, but Josh says that Stephen has the answers. And Stephen tells me that Lee Strobel's book has the answers, but I already read it and it definitely doesn't. So who has the answers? I've had a few dozen Christians text me since I started making my videos, trying to bring me back to Christ and all of that good stuff. But similar to the Christians that I've met in person, the email or the text conversations go about the same way. If I ever make an objection, they refer me to someone else. Except in this case, it's either a blog post or an article from some apologetics website. I actually had a Christian guy text me a week or two ago. We used to go to some Christian camp together, and he was concerned about my videos and how I had left Christianity. But all that this guy could do was send me articles from apologetics websites, and those articles also happened to be the first Christian result from Google if you typed in a few keywords relating to what we were talking about. Maybe that was a coincidence, but it happened more than once. He asked me, how can you be moral without a God? And I gave him my reasons. Life is better when you have friends and when you're loved by people that you love. And you can't have friends or be loved by people if you are a fucking douchebag. And how does he respond? With an article from theconversation.com titled, Morality Requires a God, which is literally the first result you'll get if you Google search Morality Requires a God or anything similar. Personally, I highly doubt that he had actually read any of these articles that he was sending me. As fast as he would Google them and send them to me, he wouldn't have had any time to do anything more than skim through them and make sure that he agreed with their conclusion. And like I said, it was more than once that he used the first Christian result from Google rather than his own brain. And he's not the only Christian that's contacted me that's done the exact same thing. I can have a conversation about religion and why I'm not religious without having to use someone else's words or thoughts. My voice is satisfactory and my words are sufficient, or at least they're genuine. But for some reason, that isn't the case with any Christians that have reached out to me. For some reason, these Christians rely on other people to explain why they're a Christian and why they believe the Bible. As of now, it seems like no Christians actually have any evidence. They're just depending on someone else having it. When they're met with a challenge, they just refer you to their pastor, or recommend you some book they haven't read, or they send you an article that they just then found on Google. How do you know that what you believe is true if you're depending on sources that you haven't even investigated? And why believe something that you can't defend for yourself? And why hate someone that doesn't believe in the Bible when they've looked into it and you haven't? Some Christians do attempt to argue for themselves, but rather than defending Christianity, they tend to attack evolution or the Big Bang or secular values or atheism. Those are fine conversations to have, but they're completely unrelated to the validity of the Bible or the existence of Yahweh or Jesus or talking animals. If you want to prove the validity of Christianity, you have to do that by providing evidence and arguments in favor of Christianity, not evidence and arguments against something completely unrelated. If I wanted to prove that chess is the greatest game of all time, I would have to do that by making a case in favor of chess. But I wouldn't get anywhere by slandering Fortnite or Chutes and Ladders. Because even if I could prove that Fortnite and Chutes and Ladders were terrible games, it wouldn't prove that chess was the greatest game of all time, even though that it is. And in the same way, if you disproved all currently accepted science, it wouldn't prove that Christianity was true any more than it would prove that any other religion was true. I really don't know why so many Christians can't understand that. It seems like in every debate I've ever had with a Christian, they bring up the Big Bang, they bring up evolution, they try to argue that atheism is a religion or that atheism requires faith. They don't understand how evolution works, and they misrepresent the Big Bang, and they have no idea what atheism is. But even if they did, and even if they were right about all of that, it wouldn't have any impact on the validity of Christianity, the validity of the Bible. In a conversation about the validity of the Bible, attacking evolution and attacking the Big Bang or atheism doesn't do anything more than derail the conversation and take the focus away from the Bible. And I suspect that's the reason why so many Christians do it, because there is no evidence that Yahweh exists, and there is no evidence that Jesus Christ ever existed, much less the one described in the Gospels. And the universe is evidently much older than 10,000 years, and the stars definitely weren't formed at the same time, nor did all of the species come about at the same time. And Christian prayer is evidently no more miraculous than crossing your fingers or walking underneath a ladder. So for a Christian, it's much easier to change the conversation to literally anything else than to defend the Bible. And lastly, there are Christians who do attempt to make arguments in favor of Christianity, but they don't quite get there or anywhere close. When they're not trying to change the conversation to evolution, the Big Bang, secular values, or atheism, they're typically just trying to argue for the existence of a God, a creator, or a beginning of the universe. All of those things are hypothetically possible, unlikely but possible. But even if we discovered that all of that was entirely true, that the universe did have a beginning and that it was created by some gods, it wouldn't prove that the Bible was true or that those creator gods were Yahweh. It wouldn't prove that Jesus Christ existed or that anything in the New Testament actually occurred. And it wouldn't prove that those gods created a religion or listened to our prayers or even invented an afterlife for us to go to after this one. If you think that the trees, birds, and colorful sunset are evidence of your religion, then you are being intellectually dishonest, or you're just embarrassingly naive. But with almost every Christian that has reached out to me and attempted to prove that the Bible is true, this was the extent of their arguments. And the same is true for well over 99% of the posts I've seen from Christians on Facebook. They take a picture of a colorful sunset and add some caption about how amazed they are that people still don't believe in Christianity, or they'll share some cringy picture arguing for intelligent design and express the same thoughts. How can you not believe in the Bible when things look so designed? I'm sorry, but whether it's the argument from complexity, the argument from beauty, the watchmaker argument, the moral argument, or any other argument for creation or intelligent design, you are not defending Christianity. You are only attempting to defend deism. If the Bible is so true, why can't you prove it? Why do you resort to arguments for deism? Do you believe in Yahweh, or do you believe in a great value God? Arguing for the existence of a creator God or intelligent design or a beginning of the universe is not arguing for Christianity. It's not arguing for any religion. At best, you're only attempting to argue for deism. And that's pretty much all that I wanted to say. But I do want to acknowledge that, yes, there are Christians out there who strictly attempt to prove that the Bible is true. But they are few and far between, and their arguments are usually rather easy to disprove, but I can at least respect them. They'll typically argue for fulfilled biblical prophecy or scientific foreknowledge in the Bible. And I actually made videos on both of those topics. You should definitely go check them out. But the mass majority of Christians don't defend Christianity. And the more that I hear Christians argue, and the more that I see Christians post their arguments on Facebook, the more that I've been noticing it. And that's what prompted me to make this video, because it's something that I don't see very many people pointing out, and it's something that I think most Christians are completely oblivious to. I know I definitely was when I was a Christian. It wasn't until I finally wanted to look for evidence for the Bible that I realized that there wasn't any. And it was at that point that I realized that all of the arguments that I had ever heard preachers use and all of the arguments that I had used myself weren't arguments for Christianity. They weren't arguments for the validity of the Bible. They were at best just arguments for deism. And so I think that the best approach to deconverting Christians is actually just challenging them to provide evidence to support the validity of the Bible. If you want to prove that the Bible is true, prove to me that Yahweh exists, not just some great value God. Prove to me that Jesus Christ existed and did the things that the New Testament said that he did. Prove to me that the 66 books in the Bible are divinely inspired, and that the hundreds of non-canonical biblical books aren't. Prove to me that the universe is less than 10,000 years old. Prove to me that all of these celestial bodies are the same age, the stars, planets, and galaxies. Prove to me that every species of animals and every species of plants originated at the same time. And prove to me that Christian prayer and Christian faith have supernatural abilities. If you want to prove to me that the Bible is true, those are the points that you have to prove at bare minimum. And if you don't already have evidence for each of those points, why do you believe that they're true? And if you have evidence to support each of these points, why do you avoid reaching out to me and showing it to me, or to anyone else who faces you with a challenge? Why do you just get angry at my videos rather than contacting me and showing me the evidence that I'm missing? If I'm wrong, why can't you show me? Why do you have to avoid me? And if you believe that I have a soul, do you care about it? If you have evidence, why do you have to refer me to your pastor, or send me an article, or refer me to a book that you haven't even read? Do you have evidence to support the Bible, or do you just blindly believe that someone else has it? Is that honest? Is that reasonable? If you have evidence for the Bible, why do you have to derail every conversation and talk about evolution, or the Big Bang, or how foolish you think atheists are? Why not just stay focused and show me the evidence for the Bible? And if you have evidence for the Bible and for Yahweh, why do you only argue for the existence of some great value God and intelligent design? Why can't you ever provide evidence for the Bible and for Yahweh specifically? Are you a Christian or are you a deist? And if you can't meet my challenge and you can't answer these questions, why are you a Christian? I tried to meet that challenge and I tried to answer those questions, but I couldn't. And that's why I'm no longer a Christian. Not because I wanted to leave Christianity. I never wanted to leave Christianity. And not because I wanted to sin or because I was just rebellious. And not because something bad happened in my life. It wasn't anything like that. It was because I didn't want to go on pretending to believe something that I couldn't prove was true. Life would have been a lot easier if I had have kept pretending to be a Christian. People would still like me, people wouldn't talk bad about me, and people wouldn't try to avoid me. And I would have been a lot more successful as a preacher than as a YouTuber. But it would have been dishonest, and it would have been selfish. And I don't want to be either one of those things.